So you've decided to set off on your first convention adventure. Once you have arrived at your destination city, you'll start to notice the first signs that you're in the right place. Usually when I get to the airport, I'll start seeing people around the luggage retrieval area that'll have t-shirts, plushes, badges. Sometimes you'll even see some on the same flight that you're on. And usually most of the time you can tell that they're all headed to the same place because a lot of people tend to get in early on the same days, usually Wednesday or Thursday, and they'll head to the hotel in groups. Most of the conventions, they offer free transportation to the hotel, but if not, be sure to check beforehand for a way to get there and back. For example, FurFest has a free shuttle. Memphis Fur Meet, you have to call and arrange a shuttle pickup, I think. And some places you need to get a taxi. However it is, make sure that you know if the convention offers something, and if so, how you get a hold of it. Also be aware, for example, if you get in at a certain time of day, that you may have to come up with alternate transportation. At BronyCon, I was able to take the light rail into the convention. However, by the time one of our roommates, Richard Renard, came in, the light rail had stopped running. So he needed to take a Uber or something like that, I think, to get to the hotel. So just be aware. For example, if there is a pre-provided method for you to get to the hotel, how you would get there, and if you get there at a late hour, have a backup plan because the primary method may not be available. I think that, for example, the FurFest shuttle runs 24/7, but I think that after a certain hour, I think you might have to call for them to come out to you. I think they only just cycle through during major daylight hours like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. or something like that. Make sure you know what hotel you're headed to and what time your departure flight is. It's a good idea to travel with all that information printed out in your action packer or your suitcase, or a folder. Like I usually like to have a folder with all that information all put in one place. Many cities have more than one hotel of the same chain, and all airports are not necessarily equal. For example, there may be two Hiltons. Make sure you're going to the correct one because you could be on another part of town that you don't want to be in. And if you've got a lot of luggage like a fursuit or you're a dealer, you don't want to be at the wrong place. In the case of the airport, for example, I know that you can get, I think, cheaper flights into Midway Airport, but also bear in mind that Midway is a small airport and it's also 45 minutes away from the hotel, whereas ORD is a lot closer, it's a lot larger, and they have a free shuttle. So make sure that if you choose an alternate airport, because sometimes there are more than one, that you are aware of what you're going to be going into, because in case of arranging travel, especially if you make your own travel arrangements, the responsibility is on you to know exactly what you're going to be walking into. So when you get to the hotel, if you're the room leader, you'll probably need to check in at the front desk. And if not, make sure you have the phone numbers of at least one person in the room, preferably 2 or 3, and make sure that you all keep tabs on what your travel itineraries are so that you know when and how you're getting in, and that you've all got everything that for example, that if you're getting in Wednesday, that you're somebody that can let you into the room. BronyCon, I was the room captain, but I put Dan Raccoon's name and our other roommate Pi on the reservation so that they would be able to get in as soon as they arrived, and they actually beat us there a little bit, so they were able to get right into the room. And if not, just if you're going to be, usually it's a good idea to put the folks that you're going to be staying with on the room reservation, preferably people that you trust and get along with. But it's not a bad idea to go with people that you haven't met yet. But just make sure that you've got everybody's information and that you can all get in touch if you need to. So let's see. You're gonna need to carry your luggage to the room, and sometimes, depending on how you've gotten there, it may vary how much you have. I know that FurFest, a friend of ours, usually ends up taking a lot of stuff. Usually it takes a couple of trips, but make sure that whatever you bring up, you're going to have to live with, and it's going to have to come back down in a few days. So, I think the only person that usually will leave with less things than they came with is probably the dealers, because they have, they are hopefully selling their stock in the dealer's room. But, other than that, more than likely you'll leave with either the same amount or more than you came with, especially if you happen to get con swag or, or buy a fursuit in the dealer's room, like a friend of mine. Um, let's see. Once you're settled in later that evening, you may want to try and do registration. If not, you can always do it the following morning. But the size of the convention generally determines how crowded this is going to be. Small cons are more or less in and out. With the large cons, like FurFest currently is, you may be in for a line of several hours, and they may cut it off at a certain point, so prepare accordingly. If you're going to go for registration at a convention that is of significant size, you may want to take an MP3 player or a tablet or something to entertain yourself if you end up being online for a long period of time. I will say that last year at FurFest, and I may have mentioned this in another video, it's that it was pretty much hell for about 3 hours, because we were sitting on not really concrete floors, but it was just a long line that you had no idea how long you were going to be there. Some people were being inconsiderate of their fellow line goers, making noise, singing songs, playing loud music, and it's, if I could have been able to, like, if it was general convention space and I could have walked away, it would have been fine. But, when you're on a registration line, especially if you're on there for 3 hours, I mean, nerves are frayed, patience runs thin. Just, be polite and be respectful of your fellow line goers. What you do while you're there can be largely determined by what you're interested in. Most furry conventions usually have panels of various subjects, sometimes divided by species, or if you're interested in fursuiting or performance or any other number of things, puppetry, drawing. There are different panels that you can find on the schedule to go to the events that would interest you. Panels are usually about an hour. If they're longer, they'll let you know. Sometimes there are some that deal with certain subject matter, like drawing, adult material, which may be scheduled later at night. Most conventions usually have free photo shoots because, let's face it, fursuiters just love to get their picture taken. So, that usually is running at all hours of the day, and there's usually schedules for where they have it. A lot of times they're just open, come in, sign up, wait your turn. And in particular with the some of the larger conventions, they've stopped doing the traditional fursuit parade, and instead they do what's called the menagerie. Basically, it's themed photo shoots, species, color, maker, that sort of thing. So you can go to that, and instead of just watching the fursuits walk by, you can go find the category that you're interested in, either to participate or to take photos. You can roam around. There's usually a lot of things to see and do at furry conventions. They have shows usually, concerts, dances, and let's see what else is there. There's also performance shows, like I know they're usually doing like the menagerie or the variety show or whatever they might happen to call it. Basically, people performing skits, doing little songs, various other things. And of course, if you're into costuming, there's always fursuiting, which usually takes up a good portion of my convention time. Usually you do it in a group. Sometimes you can do it by yourself. I mean, it all depends on what you're looking for, but you can wander around in suit. And there's countless things to do. There's the dealer's room if you're looking for shopping or you want to get a commission or a badge or something. And they have the artist alley. There's the art show if you're looking to maybe pick up an original. And look at the schedule. I mean, there are a lot of different things that you can do. As far as food options, of course, this really depends on location, hotel. There's usually a good couple of good local restaurants. If you're doing delivery, my suggestion would be to keep it to a group of 6 or smaller. And actually, in general, that's going to be true for going out, because the more people you have, the logistically more complicated it becomes. If you're, calling in an order for like Chinese food or something like that, everybody's going to have a different order, and it's going to be a lot of stuff to keep track of. and a lot of money to deal with, and it becomes an exponentially more complicated problem. So just bear in mind that the more people you have, the more complex it's going to get. And have somebody designated to go down to the lobby, because a lot of these delivery places will not bring it up to your room. So make sure you have somebody who's willing to go downstairs and pick up the food. And let's see, as far as group meals, I know I already kind of mentioned, if you're going off-site, make sure that you have transportation to and from. If you're flying, you probably won't have a car. It's kind of, the plus side to driving is that you have a vehicle to go places and you can sort of take care of yourself that way. But if you are flying, you have to find somebody that can give you a ride. It's sometimes it gets complicated when people invite people, but usually just have one person managing who's going. Try and keep it under 8 people, so that you can get there, get back in a reasonable amount of time. And as far as like off-site activities, a couple of times I know at one con we went to a go-kart track, and that was a lot of fun. But be aware that anytime you're off-site, that I guess make sure you're probably gonna be there a while, so just bear in mind that it will probably take longer than you think it will. So if you have to be at the con for any particular event, make sure that you factor in extra time for travel, transportation, suiting, whatever else you might be doing while you're out. I guess the last thing to talk about with cons is on the final night. Most conventions have what's called a dead dog party, and usually it's just people just dancing and doing fursuiting and just kind of resisting the concept that the con is over. Most Sunday nights I prefer to be lazy and or pack, just pack up my fursuits, just kind of relax that last evening. But every once in a while I'll have the inclination to suit or to do something like that last night, but it really kind of depends on my mood. And the final day of the convention, when it's time to leave, usually, the only thing left to do is say goodbye to everybody. Hopefully have plenty. Make sure you know how to get back to the airport or the train station or whatever. And before you leave your room, and this is really important, do a final sweep of the hotel room. Search the entire room for anything that might belong to you, because I can and have inadvertently left some things behind. I recall one particular convention where we got to the airport and all of a sudden I get a picture from a friend of ours of Shrag's cell phone. Now, fortunately for us, they were friends of ours who could mail it to us, but it was just kind of like one of those, oh crap sort of moments. So, make sure that you have everything that you came in with when you leave. And if not, hopefully your roommates will find it, but if not, be prepared that you might have to deal with the hotel lost and found, and that can be a whole hassle. So it's best to avoid it and just make sure that you have everything that you came in with when you leave. And that's pretty much it for that. So I hope that you had a good con, and I guess next video we'll talk about fursuiting and cosplaying. Thanks for watching, and if you liked it, click the subscribe button and leave a comment below. You can also find me on Twitter and a few other places on the web, or support me via Patreon or Ko-fi. Zebra hugs!